Oh, landmines and jellyfish. Welcome back to Knives, I guess, and your wizard is at Blade Show. You're in the big room and it's completely packed out. You're standing in front of the Medford table. What do you do next? I cast Fireball. So, this is a Divo Knives x Stassa23 collaboration, so I made the first two connections with Fireball right there. You know, if you know, you know. But this morning I thought of a third one. Yeah, I didn't think about that, did you, Kevin? And of course, beautifully ties in with all the aesthetics of this channel. I made it work. Everything I've done has led up to this moment here. But this is a prototype of the Fireball, and when I got to Blade Show, I went straight to the Divo booth, and I was waving $100 around going, give me a prototype. And Kevin goes down under the counter and pulls this one out for me, and he couldn't have pulled anything cooler out. Now, this is a prototype of the Fireball, so of course I can't really tell you too much about the production version because that doesn't exist yet. But I can tell you about the general quality of life and how it did for me over the last week, so that's what we're going to do. Let's take a look at this thing, and first things first and most importantly, the pocket clip is tip up, which is the Lord's carry. We have got this red camo carbon on here. We have got a very cool pivot collar. We got a thumb hole. Let's flick the hole. And we got about 3 inches of blade here. Kind of a modified Warncliffe or sheep's foot, depending on your perspective and level of pedanticness. And we've got a fairly deep hollow grind into a flat with this swedge. And, you know, one of the first things I noticed was, you know, it felt so good in the hand when I got it. Like I was walking around Blade Show and it was just close it, flick it, close it, flick it. And then I realized I didn't want to drop it and have it get lost, so it immediately went in the bag in the safest place I could possibly put it. And, yeah, like, so those of you that haven't been here for long, like, I don't have a grail knife per se, but prototypes are my jam. Like, those are kind of my grail-ish knives. They're pretty aspirational. You can get them, but they're a bit difficult. So, you know, this is one of my babies. And I carried it very carefully. I put it in the pocket for about 20 minutes, and that's all I was willing to do because the keys that I have for work and everything else, for some reason, leave brass deposited all over the scales and knives that I carry in my pocket, and I don't know how it's doing that, but it's driving me up the wall. So, it rode on the right hip in the waistband, and there it was really comfortable. If I had it where I need it to be to carry it comfortably, yeah, you didn't really notice it. The weight is not too shabby for something that is, you know, the average size for an EDC knife that is that thick. You know, we'll take a look at the weight real quick, and I'll show you right here. Come on. There we go. So you got, you know, 107 grams. That's not terrible. You compare it to something like the Revo Canyon, 152 grams. And, you know, this is a little bit on the chunky side. Rat 2, let's see what that weighs. So 77, 76 grams. So it's not terrible on the weight. It just feels lighter than it should for something that's got this this kind of size and this kind of girth on the handle. You know, there's nothing to complain about there. And of course, I was showing this off to everybody. Like, I love this thing so much. It looks so badass. And, you know, the factory edge, or at least the prototype factory edge, was phenomenal. I'd give that like a 9 out of 10 right there. Like, it did fantastic. And if you haven't been here before or you're new here, one of the tests I use for the factory edge is the plastic wrapped around the pallets at work. If you've got a pretty good edge going through the middle where all the layers are, it cuts okay, but you get to the bottom and the first edge problem, it's going to tear and not really cut so good on that single layer where the wrap started. This thing right here blasted through that last layer like it was cutting through water, like a very good factory edge should do. Let's take a look at some paper here. The obligatory test cut. And yeah, I mean, it's a nice, clean, easy cut. Like, no complaints about the factory edge there, outside of I borked a cut on camera, because that's what we do around here. We keep the property value really low. So yeah, I mean, the factory edge was fantastic. Now, I will say, and this is a personal preference thing, it's not anything against this knife or Kevin and Stassa23's design, but it's got a pretty deep hollow grind. I may have mentioned that earlier, but, you know, I'm not the world's biggest fan of deep hollow grinds, and that's simply because when you go to make cuts through stuff like cardboard, that hollow grind just acts like a wedge, and you need a lot more force than you do with a good flat grind to push it through, at least in my own experience. And this thing definitely did the thing. Like, it took some work to push it through some 32-pound cardboard, you know, and that's what a hollow grind does. And again, that's a personal preference issue. This thing is made very well. It did very well. It's designed very well. Let me read you the email from Kevin at Divo to let you know what he said if you didn't see the last video I did. Like, I'm glad I reached out and asked. So, it's in production now, and they expect it to be done in August. It'll drop probably in September. Those are estimates. The steel on the blade is going to be S90V. Kubi is the OEM, and they sent a picture of the blade being tested at 61.5 HRC. They're going to list it as 60 to 62 HRC. There are going to be 3 versions. There is an electric blue camo carbon, and that's got a PVD TI and black wash blade. Black pearl camo with PVD TI and a belt satin blade, and 80s camo carbon with PVD TI and a belt satin blade. And they want it to be affordable, so they're keeping that at $199, which for some of us isn't budget. For a lot of guys it is. That is considered a budget price. There's going to be a certain number, should be 30, that drop in a left-hand configuration, so that there are, something available for lefties, and of course lefty EDC. That makes perfect sense. There are going to be extra back spacers right here that have the holes drilled out on this side for lefty, but they're smooth on this side because they didn't want holes showing on the non-clip side, just to clean up the look. So that's how they went about it. The expectation is 3.1 inches on the blade, 7.25 overall ish. And there are some pivot collar sets in different colors, including Timascus, for those of us that want to spice it up a little bit. Now let me show you the renderings of these guys. Like, these things are foxy, and I wish I had a better budget to edit this properly, but there is the HRC rating, and it is just up over 60. So, your first one right here is the black pearl camo, which it looks really cool. That's actually that's pretty classy. That's got a gentleman's carry look to it. There's the electric blue camo right there, and that is just a sick look right there. And there's the one that has my heart and soul, the 80s camo carbon right here. Dear God, that is so foxy. So, one of the things I talked to Kevin about was my budget doesn't allow stuff like this. I just don't have it, so we're going to try to work something out so I can get one when they drop. If you do want one, you got to be fast when they drop, because the Divo stuff, small runs, sells out immediately. I learned that the hard way with the Growler V2. I have that prototype and fell in love with it, so I wanted to get the production version, both because better blade steel, it's the production version, and of course, I feel like, Lefty deserves some support. These are very, very good knives in my experience so far. I've just got the 2, because again, budget, but the 2 that I have, they're fantastic. The prototypes, like that Growler V2, is one of the best things I have ever carried. Just for general daily use, carry comfort, how it works as a knife, how much fun it is to fidget with, how cool it looks, like all the things are there. It's right up there with like the Bug Out for my most comfortable daily carry. And it was one of the ones that I had to force myself to not reach for when things started really coming in and the channel started picking up its pace. With it being a prototype too, some things are missing. There's texturing on the back spacer in that rendering, and they now have speed holes in the back. And, again, prototypes are my babies. The fact that this does not have features that are on the new ones is fantastic. Of the 3 options that are available, the red camo carbon did not show up, so that is also just extremely cool to me. I got something that's not going to show up on the production versions right here. And so generally speaking, this thing did absolutely fantastic. It was everything I expected, nothing I didn't expect. And, the production version, I hope I can get that 80s camo carbon. I love those colors on it. I know it's been out there for a while, and I've seen it in a couple of places, but didn't really notice it until I saw it on that rendering. So, and hopefully if I can get one, that's the thing. I want one so we can do an S90V cardboard slayer. I'm going to have to clear some extra time for that. I'm going to have to pack a lunch. I'm probably going to need a bucket to pee in. I got a feeling that one's going to take a while to knock out. That edge is probably going to take forever and a half to wear out. And of course, I don't have any S90V on anything else, so fancy steel. Ooh, shiny. But yeah, so I mean, this is kind of your sneak preview of what to expect with this thing and kind of what my experience was with, the prototype version. A little bit of a prequel to the madness. And yeah. you know, it's fantastic. It is the kind of quality I expected from Divo after my experience with the Growler V2. It's really cool that it's a collaboration with Stassa23, because I'm going to tell you right now, if you're making content like this, it starts getting really, really hard to watch yet more knife videos. And that's not just me. That's a complaint I've heard a few times, or not a complaint, but an observation from a few different people that do this. I still like to sit back and watch a Stassa23 video every once in a while. You know, I like him. I like his vibe. So, yeah. This thing is extremely cool. It's going to be an absolute banger when it comes out. This is going to be one of those that carries well, works well. I love showing stuff like this off, especially to people that like knives but aren't knife guys, because they get blown away by this stuff. That carbon has caught so much attention. Like, I cannot tell you how much I love the way this thing, you know, reflects in the light and the chatoyance it has. Just good God. But, you know, that's all I can think of that's worth saying before I'm rambling. This thing is just going to be an absolute banger. It's going to be fantastic, and it's going to be a limited run, so you really have to be fast to get one. I'm just hoping having the email exchange with Kevin kind of gets me where I want to go with this and gets me one of those 80s camos. But yeah, all that being said, thanks for looking at my extremely cool crap. Subscribers, you guys are awesome. I know a bunch of y'all just came in over the last couple of days here. I appreciate you so much. You have no idea what it means to me that you guys spend time on this stuff and spend time watching it, you know, when you could be doing something else. Comments, I love some feedback. Let me know what you think about this thing and what the production version sounds like to you. Like, it's just gonna be good. But all that being said, y'all have a nice day.